Hello, and welcome to the NUFC 360 preview show. At long last, finally, the World Cup is over, and I'm joined by Mark and Michael. Evening to you guys.
Hello, Ez. Hello, world.
It's good to be back. It really is good to be back. It's good to be talking about Newcastle. It feels a bit strange, to be honest, which is strange to say in and of itself, given we should be well in the swing of things by now. So Sunday was the World Cup final. I don't know if you guys caught the final, but give me your kind of brief summing up of how the last 4 weeks of football have gone for you, and the fact Argentina have rolled out eventual winners. Just briefly sum up your thoughts on that. Mark, we'll go with you first.
I just want Newcastle back. I'm so glad this is all over. We were talking a little bit before we came on air. We touched on it, and I just couldn't get into it. I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was the time of year. I'm not naturally predisposed to being a massive England fan anyway, but I care. I care enough, and I've sort of got into it during other tournaments. So that's probably why I'm putting it down to the fact it was the time of year. I don't know, but the other thing is, it always feels like a foregone conclusion. As long as Southgate's manager, in my opinion, I know a lot, he divides opinion, but the thing that kills me with watching England under Southgate is I know what's going to happen before it happens. I can almost write the script, and I just don't think we're ever gonna make that step and win a major trophy with him in charge. Mainly because, name me an occasion other than the Euros in 2004 when a defence first team has won a major international tournament. Not in my lifetime, other than that one incident, and that was like the equivalent of Leicester winning the league. It was like a big fluke. So I'm just glad to have Newcastle back. I watched a few of the group games. I watched all of England's games other than the France one because I was in Scotland at the time. So I was like, I'm not going to bother. So just caught the result. Exactly. So it's caught the result on the phone, and I just thought, okay, fine. And within 10 minutes, I was over it. I was like, I'm not really bothered. The game that really hacked me off was the US game, which I'm sure a lot of England fans can relate to. I was sat in a bar in Iceland watching that game because I was on holiday.
Oh, wow.
And the most redeeming feature about that whole thing is one of the pundits on Icelandic television was former NUFC forward Bjarni Gudjonsson. Who never actually made an appearance for the club.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's Bjarni Gudjonsson. There he is. And
Nice.
that was about the biggest takeaway I had of it. The final was obviously a great final, but I still just don't really care that much, which is a real damning indictment of the tournament. And I'm going to put it down to the fact it was in the winter. But if I'm honest, I don't really know, but I just wasn't that fussed.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm quite similar to you from that perspective. It's the least emotion I've shown after England had been knocked out of any tournament. I'm probably just getting used to it by now. Michael, do you have any additional thoughts to that, or did you really enjoy it?
I mean, I love the World Cup. I'll keep mine short because we want to get onto Newcastle, don't we? I'll keep mine short. I love the World Cup. I absolutely adore it. I remember the first one in '82, waiting for Kevin Keegan to make an appearance. But the analogy I would use is, when you go out, when your wife or your partner says, why don't you go out with, her mates' partners? And you go out and you have a good night out and it's like, it's great, this. And then you think, and then the next day thinking, no, I just want to get back to going out with my proper mates now. You know what I mean? It's like that, wasn't it? The World Cup. It was kind of like, yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it did its job, but, I've done it for failure, but can we just get back to the serious stuff now? So, yeah, glad to have us back after another quarterfinal exit.
That's an interesting analogy into your marriage there.
Well, if I still am after this, it's another matter. Yeah. But and I apologise to all the friends. Sorry about that. I'm just joking.
So segueing away from the World Cup, but it's kind of staying on the same angle. From a Newcastle perspective, given that some of our players are out there, I think momentum is like the key word. We were talking about it before we broke up. Now we're talking about it again. Can we reignite the momentum? Really is the next topic for discussion. Now, I don't just mean in terms of our form, but I also mean in terms of the international players that went out and came back. They'll all be slightly deflated for different reasons, mainly because their countries have gone out, but also because they didn't really play that much, a lot of our players. So do you think that will also kind of stifle our momentum as well, kind of more the mentality coming back into the camp? Do you think that would change change anything, or will we just pick up from where we left off? Michael, we'll start with you.
I think it would depend on the character of the player himself, wouldn't it? I mean, with ours, like you said, I mean, Pope didn't get a game. Trips did, didn't he? And Wilson had 20 minutes. Was it maybe a bit added together? So maybe he would be a bit deflated because he played when they got absolutely murdered by the Portuguese. So I think it would
taken off at half time, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it would be down to the player, but I mean, player momentum, that's totally down to the player on his own. But I'm sure Eddie won't let that. Will see that and pick anybody up that he feels needs to be.
Yeah, Mark, how about you? Do you agree, or do you have some different thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking about this independently the other day, just sort of trying to work out, how we're going to bounce back, and thinking specifically about those international players. I think Wilson, he's got a really good mentality because you see it when he gets injured and he comes back and it's just like straight away he just picks up from where he left off. So I'm not too worried about Callum Wilson. How hard it's going to hit Bruno, I don't know, because obviously Brazil are just football over there is truly a religion. It's similar to what it is for us really in Newcastle. So I do wonder what's going to go on there with him. Cher also had an absolute stinker, in fairness, in that game where he was sent off at half time. He didn't have a great game. But one thing that I did think about when I was pondering all the international players coming back was most of the especially in the case of Fabian Cher and Callum Wilson, at least, these lads have been to hell and back with Steve Bruce and came back. And I mean, look at the turnaround in Fabian Cher's just been unbelievable. So I believe they can do it. Outside of the international lads and looking at the rest of the group, it's very, very difficult to say. I mean, they looked a bit, I don't know what you guys thought, against Al Hilal. I thought they looked a bit sort of off the pace a little bit, not majorly, just, and you would expect that. You would expect that to a degree. And then in the game at the weekend against Rayo, the second half was a bit like that as well, although the first half was a bit more intense. And that's, I suppose, what I worry about, the intensity, because we started the season a bit slow. And then once we got up to speed, it was like a runaway freight train. The question is, how quickly can we get up to speed again? And I just don't know the answer to that.
The Al Hilal game, you could say, well, we didn't even have anything to play for, but we did. We had a big old cup to play for as well. So we couldn't get ourselves up for that. I don't know.
Very big cup.
Going back to what you were saying about Bruno, apparently he got absolute pelters in the Brazilian media after, I think, his cameo when he came on. I could have been against Japan, I can't remember, but he came on, missed a few chances. Although he did make stuff, he sparked them into action, really, if you ask me. But I did check Twitter afterwards, and I used a lot of Google Translate, and he was getting pelters on social media as well. So it's a bit strange because he's totally loved up in Newcastle, but the Brazilian fans, probably don't really care for it much, to be honest.
No, they're lost.
I just find that bizarre because he played such a small part in their tournament to have a go at him. I honestly didn't actually know about this until a couple of days ago. That's how detached I've been from the World Cup, really.
Yeah.
And I learned about it through social media, and I was like, that's got to be a mistake. Surely, Bruno barely played. But but that's Brazil fans for you, like you say.
Indeed. So we've got Bournemouth at home tomorrow, guys. Fourth round of the Carabao Cup, and the draw has been relatively kind to us. It really has, particularly with the two big teams drawing one another. Massive opportunity to generate some cup excitement, to run in parallel with our league excitement. So I don't know if you guys caught the Eddie Howe press conference today. He mentioned actually that he didn't want to use this game as a springboard for our league game. He wants to use this game to really start that momentum and take it forward into the league game. But it's hard because we really got some mixed messages around who's fit and who isn't. He outright refused to answer the question around the fitness of the likes of Dan Burn, etc. So he says he's going to put a team out to try and win it. What kind of starting 11 do you think? And this is a complete stab in the dark, I appreciate, because we have very little information. But Mark, let's start with you. What kind of starting 11 would you have, given the information that we have from Eddie Howe?
If it were me personally, I'd go relatively strong. I'd probably put out, at least half the players probably, the sort of players that you'd be putting out in an important league game, mixed with a few of the lads in the fringes. Whether Eddie Howe will do that or not, I don't know. My gut says he probably will, but you hit the nail on the head there before. It's a stab in the dark. I want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that I adore Eddie Howe. I don't want anyone else to manage Newcastle, possibly ever.
There's a book coming here, isn't there?
But if there's one gripe I've got as a fan, and it is a very, very minor gripe, and I'm eternally grateful that Eddie Howe is at our football club, is that I just don't get why we don't get a clear message on injuries. I can understand to a degree you want to keep the opposition guessing. I get that.
Yeah.
But one, it's Bournemouth in a cup game. It's not like a title decider or anything. And two, how many times is he going to do this before the opposition just cotton on and go, he does this all the time and they're always injured. He tries to keep us guessing they're always injured and they just ignore it. It's like he's going to become the boy who cried wolf with it. And at a certain point, I think the value that you potentially gain by keeping cards close to your chest is outweighed by how much you're hacking off your supporters by just not knowing what the hell's going on. I can see a comments come through in the chat from Evan Carl. Is Maxi ever coming back? I think he will actually play this game. I put it this way: before he sort of went down with a bit of a knock in the Rayo game at the weekend, I thought he's definitely going to play. Now I think if he is actually, that hasn't affected him too much. I think he will play just because he's got the most to prove. He had a class game against Man City, scored a screamer against Wolves, got injured, and then we've barely seen him since. So it's like, he's been hard done by. So I think Eddie would want to see what he's doing. Beyond that, I really have no idea. But I'd like to think he'd put out a decent strength team because the draw has been kind, like you say.
Indeed. Michael, any thoughts on any inclination as to who you think may start? Any left field ones you think may start?
Well, first of all, Mark, having a go at Eddie Howe. It's all about. Those deluded Geordie.
I'm taking no prisoners.
Geordie fan. I can just see the headlines tomorrow, can't you? Geordie fans turn on Eddie Howe as season starts again. No, I know what you mean. I've got a different view of that. I think that's just the way he likes to do things, and he's not really bothered if anyone likes it or not. He's just kind of like, well, that's how I like to keep it. I like to keep my cards close to my chest. So, left field. I think we're going to go like we did against Palace, if I'm being honest. So we might see Wood rather than Wilson and bring Wilson on if needed. But I think it's going to be much more of a mixture of what we thought might be coming. I think we'll probably see John Joe. I think we'll see Maxi if he's fit. He won't risk him if he's not. And personally, I know it's very nice of Eddie to say that, but this is, to me, it's just like a really, really good springboard for what matters, which is getting 3 points against Leicester. For me, cut run's great, it's fine, brilliant, I love it, and I hope we keep going. But really, we just want to get that momentum going in the league again, don't we? If we're all being honest. So I don't think he'll do. I don't think we'll see Anderson. I don't think we'll see any of the younger lads. We did against Vallecano, but I think it will be like Wood and John Joe, probably Maxi if he's fit. So it'll be a strongish team. It'll be a level 7 team rather than a 9 or a Gale Force 9 or whatever. So in my opinion,
I think the same. I'm sort of setting up my mind for a little bit of disappointment because it's not going to be a full strength 11. There are going to be like your Javier Menquios in there, I'm sure, and maybe your Kariuses because and Woods, just because it doesn't sound as though Howe's willing to. I think there are any 50-50s such as Wilson. I don't think he'll risk them for this game.
Yeah.
Which is going to be my next question, actually, which was how seriously would you guys take this? So from a cup league perspective, let's say if we take Wilson, for example, right, he's a 50-50. Would you risk him? Because he's so important to us, right? If you start Wilson playing for 60, 70 minutes, the probability of us winning that game, I think, significantly goes up. But then if he's 50-50, then you may well lose him for the Leicester game. So Michael, let's start with you. Would you, so just taking Wilson in isolation, would you risk him if he's 50-50 for this game tomorrow?
No, I wouldn't. And we're getting a comment then from Earthling Carl saying about, you take a League Cup now over fourth, which, it's been so long. I mean, maybe I'm just like still got that cynical part of me, which is like, well, we're just going to fall flat in this, aren't we? We're going to come up against someone strong and then we'll go out, and I'd rather concentrate on the league and having a good performance there. But I don't know really when I think about it. I'd like to say, I'd like to obviously like Wilson to start, score a couple and get taken off early and us be 3 up at half time. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? But I don't know. I'm caught now. Earthling Carl's caught me out a bit there. No, I wouldn't. No, I would still give the League Cup up. We've still got the FA Cup to go. We've got a kind draw in that in Sheffield United Wednesday. I know it's away, but so no, I wouldn't. Just because we've got bigger fish. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't risk him and not have him play on against Leicester, because I think Leicester is still there to be taken.
Okay, nice. Mark, same question for you. Do you have any different thoughts?
I definitely have him on the bench to bring on, even if you might be risking him. I just think the opportunity this year, the way it's worked out with the draw, the teams left in it, it feels like we could actually go quite far in this, and who knows, maybe even win it or at least get to a final. I realize it's sacrilege to say this in a city that's absolutely obsessed with the FA Cup, but if you tell me you've got to sack off one of the cups, I'm sacking the FA Cup off every time. I don't want to sack any of them off.
Having to go Eddie Howe, he's sacking off the FA Cup now. I mean, come on. Are you feeling okay? I know it's Christmas and we all like to have a drink, but Jesus, I mean, are you drunk, man?
I've never ever understood this romantic obsession that Newcastle United seems to have with the FA Cup over everything else. Don't get it, never have. Doesn't mean I don't want to win it. Doesn't mean I don't want to take it seriously. But if someone says to me, you can only take one of the cup competitions seriously, for me, it would be the League Cup, because we've got more of a chance of winning it right now. So why wouldn't you? Especially, you look at the draw, we've got Bournemouth, who are there for the taking. You've got to think they'd be concentrating on the league, such as their precarious position. So I'm not expecting them to necessarily field a hugely strong side either. No. So based on that, I'm taking this more seriously than I think most Newcastle fans probably are, and I fully recognise that. But yeah, I'd be fielding a reasonable team. If Wilson's not fit, if he's 50-50 like you phrased it, I'd have him on the bench to bring on in an emergency scenario. Put it that way. I still think Chris Wood can do the job though. Yeah. He's come up trumps for us now and again, and obviously we had that long spell of wins toward the end of last season, and for most of that we were playing Chris Wood up front. So we can do this. It's far from impossible, especially considering the opposition.
Yeah, I mean, poor Isak's been so unlucky, hasn't he? I mean, we've been unlucky. He's been unlucky. I mean, all around. I mean, really, we shouldn't be having this conversation. It should be, well, if we haven't got Wilson, just bring Isak on, and and we'll keep going through. But I mean, the thing about the League Cup is what England has just shown us. I know exactly what you mean when you look at who's gone out in the last round, which we all enjoy very much. But all we are is just one penalty kick away from going out. And if Wilson got injured and then we've dominated the game and we still can't win because Bruno misses another penalty, God forbid, or whatever. We're just that close to going out of any cup competition like that. So I just don't think it's worth the risk. But then again, I'm just being very cynical. So
one big difference, though, we've got a class manager in Eddie Howe.
That's true. Yes, true. But you know what I mean? I mean, we just we needed penalties last time. So I mean, it would be great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not passing up any chance of winning a cup, for God's sake. I'm not. I don't want to. No. There's another headline: deluded Geordie's now prime for Premier League supremacy. Would rather win Premier League than League Cup. Shock. I mean, no.
You should work for the papers there, Michael.
I should do, shouldn't I?
Headlines here.
I've got too good of standards. They couldn't afford me.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. And I was going to mention Isak actually because. Mark, I mean, you said earlier on how frustrating it is as a fan when Eddie Howe's not necessarily giving up whether players will be available or not. I have less of an issue with that, actually, but I do have more of an issue with him not being completely honest about the severity of them up front. of the injuries themselves. So when Isak got injured a few months ago, if he'd just been honest and said, look, he's out for 4 months, 5 months, however long it is, it kind of like sets your expectations as a fan. Okay, we're not going to see him. I won't be continually disappointed every week when I'm hoping that he's fit and he's not. And apparently he's got like a grade 1 or grade 2 tear, or that's what he had. And so it was quite bad. So why didn't they just say it at the beginning? He's done it with Callum Wilson as well. It's that's what really frustrates me. It's not the week on week stuff. It's more.
No, it's the same. It's the same for me. I think I probably didn't explain it well, but that's the part of it that hacks me off the most, because it's like, what are you really gaining from this? Like, it's minuscule, the amount that you're gaining, and all it's doing is causing us a lot of confusion. But like you say, it's like, does he really care? Probably not. He's got bigger things to worry about.
It's his way of doing it, isn't it?
So we've got Isak, hopefully to come back some point in the festive period, if not just after, but he's not available. Almiron, we didn't see in the last friendly game. We're not quite sure about Almiron. Assume he's fit. And St. Max apparently has picked up a slight knock, although we have no other information other than he picked up a slight knock. So last question before score prediction then, guys. If we were to recruit in January in just one attacking position, right? So either left wing, right wing, or centre forward. Given our current situation, in the summer, this would have been easy, right? The Almiron's position, let's recruit there. Fast forward 6 months, where are we going to prioritize if we could only buy one player, if we could only afford one player in these attacking positions? So, Mark, let's start with you. Where's your priority?
I'm staying with right wing, which I think might probably surprise people because of the Alma Renaissance, or whatever you want to call it, of 2022. But he's basically one injury away from having absolutely nobody to play there. Like, really, realistically, like, everyone forgets, like, we were before Almiron worked his way into the team under Howe, and then obviously kicked on this season and has done what he's done. We were playing Ryan Fraser there. Ryan Fraser looks a shadow of his former self, and his former self wasn't exactly lighting the world alight anyway. He was putting in decent performances, but that was about it. I don't see any great cover that we've got on that side of the pitch. At least with the left, if something happens to Maxi, we've already got evidence to suggest we can cope with that. And I actually quite like the idea of Joe Willock over there. I want to see that. He did it a little bit for Arsenal many years ago, and he was quite good at it. And he's just so good at picking up the ball and carrying it forwards quickly, which obviously for a forward position is hugely beneficial as well. So I think he could do a job there. And I like the whole, him and Joe Linton switching around and keeping opposition guessing. I don't think it'll work for top level opposition, but I quite like it against some of the teams that we played that system in. So for me, there's just more cover on the left. Yeah, Murphy can play on the right, but
interesting comment there from Mark.
I can understand that take. I really can. I don't think Murphy is anywhere near as effective on the right, personally. I don't think he's massively effective on the left, but he has his moments. And he's already proven he can do something for us over there this season. No. So yeah,
slagging Eddie off, doesn't want the FA Cup. Slagging Murphy off. I mean, what's going on?
Honestly, you're
but he's been on the cherry, hasn't he?
I do see where you're coming from, though, because on the left we have had whilst St. Max has been out pretty much for the last couple of months. We have had Joe Willock, Joe Linton there. Jacob Murphy can play there. When Isak comes back, he could potentially play there as well. So we have plenty of cover in that position. Michael, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree with Mark. Yeah, and I think we need a defensive midfield as well. I think everyone's pretty universally agreed on that. So, but I mean, it's going to be Mbappe in it. So there we are.
Wow,
why not? I mean, richest club in the world. He's just had a decent World Cup, hasn't he? So that would be nice,
you're writing more deluded Geordie's headlines.
Mbappe. No, I think we do need. I mean, who to play there on right? I don't know, but yeah, I think Mark's right. I think that's one position that screams out to me. And a defensive mid for me as well would be just so Bruno can be a bit freer. Then again, Sean Longstaff's coming back, so he's done all right. He did all right against on Saturday, so he did okay.
Let me tell you, having seen I was to say, having seen McAllister and seen the types of players that Dan Ashworth has just cherry picked out of nowhere.
Well, that is a very good
I've
point.
got full faith in them
Yeah.
finding some jewel from somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they must be Brighton going, oh, brilliant, the guy who bought him's gone. Because there won't be another one coming, will there? And they'll know that we're out there looking at all these guys right now. So it'll cost a fraction of anything that anyone else is looking at. So that is really tasty, isn't it? It's going to be great. Sorry, Brighton.
Bloody amazing. It's a bloody amazing position to be in, knowing that you've got someone like that at your club who can pick out those gems.
Yeah,
and if for whatever reason that doesn't work out, we've got the finances to drop a load of money on players.
Yeah, if we really want to. Yeah, well, we'll get Mbappe after all. Then go on then.
Best of both, sort of thing. But I don't. It's just dawned on me. I don't really know who they necessarily have in those positions, but I'm hoping we're sniffing around Juventus players, just because they're obviously in a lot of trouble at the moment.
Yeah,
they've been found to be naughty boys. They're not having the best season either, so maybe they've got to offload
allegedly
some players. I don't know. I'm sure we'll discuss transfers in future shows, though.
Indeed. Cool. Okay, so fingers crossed for tomorrow. All that really leaves us to do is to come up with your score predictions. I think I might know which way this is going to go, but let's see some numbers. Michael, let's start with you. What's your prediction?
3-0 Newcastle.
Right.
All day long.
Interesting.
I think Bournemouth are not being. They've got they had that manager syndrome thing where they did really well for the manager, then he got the job, and then they down tools. So let's hope that carries on. So 3-0 tomorrow.
I mean, they did pose us some problems when they were at St James's just a couple of months ago.
He didn't have the job then, did he? And now he's got it. They're all like, oh well, we'll have to try now.
Okay, interesting take. Yeah, Mark, how about you?
I'm going to go 2-0, and I think. You've touched on it there, Ez. I mean, Bournemouth have kind of got a blueprint about how to give Newcastle a bit of a hard time. They came to St James's Park and gave us a hard time this season once already. However, that was before we really kind of got up to speed and worked out how to break teams down. We were coming up against teams that sat back and didn't know how to score, and then found ourselves scoring 4 and 5 past them later on in the season. So the question is, how quickly can we get back to that form, which is obviously what we were discussing at the start of the show. I'd like to think it'll be a tight game, but at a certain point we'll make a breakthrough and then hopefully get a second. That's what I'm going for, saying it with trepidation. But I'm just really excited to be going back to St James's Park.
God, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm gonna stick with you, Mark, and with Earthling Carl. I think it'll be 2-0. I don't think it'll be a walk in the park type game. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be quite a nervy, rusty game. But I think our quality will show in the end, and I think we'll break through a couple of times. But I can't see it being a classic either. But who cares? We're back. That's all that really matters. That the real football is back, and we won't be back, I don't think, to preview the Leicester game, because that's Boxing Day. So that means we'll be doing that on Christmas Day, which is very, very unlikely. But we'll likely be doing a match reaction to that Leicester City game after Boxing Day. So until then, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Michael. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now.